We're live. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're hanging out here with Trench Grenade today. If you don't know Trench Grenade, you should. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But as everybody's piling in, make sure you let me know if you can hear me and see me, as well as Trench himself. And of course, I do have to mention Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. So thanks to them, I can do live streams like this and get guests on like Trench Grenade who can give us some inside information when it comes to some of the things we're going to talk about related to the military and preparedness, because he is an active duty U.S. Army drill sergeant, which means he's got information that I don't have access to because I've never been in that role or capacity before. So, Trench Grenade, how's it going today, man?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Glad to have you. Glad you're available to come on and have this chat. Everybody's saying 5x5 so far. Looks like everyone can hear and see us. And Gunslinger67 says FA by FO. So I think we're pretty much good to go. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I mean, I kind of just made a quick introduction, but let everybody know, what it is you do and maybe a little bit about your background. So that way we can all understand where this information is coming from,
Right. Okay. Well, what's up, guys? I am Trench. Just a brief introduction. I've been in the infantry for 12 years now, active duty the entire time. My first 3 years of my career, I was in Germany in the 173rd. During that time, I served in every position from rifleman, saw gunner, assistant team leader, etc. After that, served 3 more years in a mech unit in Fort Riley. So I was a Bradley commander, right? So a section leader or Bradley commander. Everyone should be familiar with the Bradley now, you know what I mean, with everything going on in Ukraine. So I did that for 3 years. And then after that, I went to Alaska, served 3 to 4 years or something like that as a rifle squad leader, both as a security squad leader, assault squad leader, a weapons squad leader, and we'll talk about some of that later, and then a platoon sergeant. And then after that, now currently serving as a drill sergeant. Okay, I served a year as a basic combat training drill sergeant, and then I served now I've served after that a year as a drill sergeant leader. So other than that, just a normal dude. But I think tonight will be productive because I'll be able to share some of my experiences, both with tactics and some things that I've seen, and hopefully everyone can take some of my experiences and apply it wherever, or some of these guys might be able to just be like, hey, this guy's an idiot. So, but yeah, that's me.
Well, that's all right. That happens to me all the time. So at least we're on the same page with that. So that's awesome. You have a lot of experience. Like, I have never served, so I don't have any of that background. So I don't have any information regarding tactics or anything along those lines to give to everybody, which people have asked me before, hey, what do you think we should do if X, Y, or Z happens? And I just tell them I'm not the right guy to be asking that question to, because I think if you were to answer that question without any level of experience, it's probably going to do a disservice, right? Which I'm sure the internet's full of that, honestly. So, but I do want to bring attention to your channel. So we'll go ahead and just kind of pull that up here real quick, just to get everybody established as to the fact that you're on YouTube. And so this is Trench Grenade's channel. Make sure you guys go check it out. If there's any mods in the chat right now, if you could share this channel, that'd be great. I'll go ahead and post it as well, just to make sure. And on your playlist section, one of the things that I really like is the infantry tactics playlist. And you do a lot of videos kind of all over the place. Like, you do some stuff even related to like physical fitness. You do a lot of gun stuff, which is probably where I found your channel to begin with, because I'm guilty of that as well. But where the real value for people in this community who want to be better prepared but don't have that background experience like you do, at least in my opinion, comes in is with your infantry tactics type videos. And I just find those really interesting as somebody who has never participated in any of that kind of stuff, So what was your idea or like purpose of sharing some of that information with people like myself? Were you just trying to help Americans out in case something were to ever happen, or were you just kind of motivated to share some of that information just because of feeling like it might be relevant at some point?
Right. So I started the channel. I think I started the channel a year and a half ago or something like that. And at first, I realized I was posting stuff on Instagram for like friends and family, just gun stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then I created the channel because I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna say this stuff, at least I can post it. That way, it's kind of saved for if anyone ever asks me a question, on the range. I could be like, hey man, I have this 20-minute video explaining to you how to zero a rifle or why this might be good or bad or whatever. So initially, I just created the channel kind of as something to just document. When I'm going to the range, have video of a certain range experience, so I can remember zero holds or whatever. And then the tactic stuff kind of happened because I'm like, okay, there are a ton of channels talking about whatever, your everyday carry gun, your body armor setup, whatever. Whether those channels are saying the correct information or not, all that is out there, and that's up to the viewer to decide if it's true or false or useful information. But what there's not a lot of is how to actually use that stuff, right? And that's when I started posting basic battle drills, right? React to contact, squad assault, patrol base, ambush, raid. I have all those videos out there because people are like, let's say you and a group of 10 buddies, right, are going to go out and you're going to LARP in the woods, for lack of a better term, to try to get ready to be prepared. Well, you really don't know what you're doing unless you study either the Ranger Handbook or the rifle platoon doctrine, and you actually learn how to apply it, right? So that's kind of where all this started was, hey, let me just put what I'm teaching at work as an infantryman, right, and as a drill sergeant. Let me put what I'm teaching at work that's all public information. Everything I teach on the channel can be accessed on the Ranger Handbook or any Army doctrine, right? So none of what I cover is classified. It's all about how to apply it, because you can know all the tactics in the world, but if you don't apply it, you're still going to get smoked by some dude with an SKS, right? So actually teaching people how to apply these tactics, that's going to make them leaps and bounds ahead of anybody out there that has the best kit set up in the world. But if they don't know what stop, look, listen, smell, SEALs, is, and they're just going to get smoked trying to cross a road, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of where my mindset is. And unfortunately, when you make videos like that, you hurt some people's feelings because they put their emotions in the things that you're telling them. But
Yeah. Well, and like I said, for somebody like myself, and I'm sure a large portion of the chat tonight, as well as just the general audience, doesn't have that background, especially in the sense of, at this point in time, you're an instructor, right? So there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom there that I just don't have access to. Of course, I could read manuals, and like you said, a lot of this information is public, but that doesn't mean I understand how it can be applied, right? It doesn't mean I understand what it's meant to be used for or anything along those lines. And we're out here preparing for whatever could come. And people, we have, the gear, we've got the rifles, we've got the chest rigs, the body armor, all the stuff. But how does that become effective without a plan or without some sort of concept in mind as to how to utilize it to the most effect it could be used for, right? So I find that very beneficial, very valuable as someone without that expertise. And I appreciate that you put that out there. Now, in case you guys don't know, Trench has a lot of very strong opinions and hot takes on certain pieces of gear and equipment and everything else. And he will definitely ruffle your feathers, don't get me wrong. But just personally, from my point of view, those tactics videos are really interesting and inspiring for someone like myself, just because of just how naive and how beginner I am when it comes to any of that type of knowledge. So that's really what I appreciate about what you do, because I don't see a lot of that being put out there. There are some good sources, but it's nice to have somebody who's doing it right now actually telling us about it.
Right. I don't know. I haven't seen any other. I think there's a couple like Grunt Proof or something like that, and a few other channels that are talking about, not preparedness, but battle drills and actual tactics. I know Grantham has a few videos about survival in the mountains and stuff like that. But there's not a lot of channels out here just saying like, hey, doctrinally, this is how you cross a road. Doctrinally,
right.
If you want to kill somebody in the middle of the night and survive in Minecraft, to talk about it, this is how you do a raid. This is how you not die. This is how you do a recon. So I think it's important to have that knowledge out there. And let's be honest, and chat, you guys can answer, right? How many of you guys are actually going to go look up a manual? I mean, be honest. A lot of guys are not going to go read a book or go look up a manual. What they're going to do is they're going to pull up a YouTube video, and while they're driving to work or while they're driving to the gym or while they're driving to the range, right? They're driving to the range and, their least favorite YouTuber, Trench Grenade, posts a video on some product and, they're driving to the range and maybe they hear on the drive how to apply something, how to do a zero differently, how to set up kit differently, or how to actually use it, and to avoid a mistake that maybe that I've experienced or you've experienced, right? So I think where I view the gun tube or like training side of YouTube for tactics and everything is if Magic Pepper posts a video about why he likes his acro, right, on his carry gun, and then eventually runs into an issue with that product, maybe someone else can avoid that, or maybe they can, save a lot of time and effort. So.
And that's, I think you're right. There's a more digestible format in videos or even just audio of listening while driving or something like that, where you can brush up on that knowledge or gain some of that expertise without having to spend the standalone time of reading through a manual or whatever else that might be, right? So that's awesome. And in case anybody is new here, especially from Trench's channel, just because I have to clear the air on this every so often, I do not dye my hair. It just grows this way. So now everyone knows, and we don't have to worry about why Trench is associating with some weird guy, So.
I never even thought about that. Is that something that gets brought up a lot? People want to know about your hair.
Yeah, pretty much regularly, if not every single live stream, somebody has to ask about it. So I like to address it every so often because there's this inherent concept that I'm vain enough to go through the process of dyeing a white streak in my hair on a daily basis, and that's just not correct. So,
well,
but I like to mention it just because there's probably some new people here now, and I don't want it to degrade, what it is you're presenting based on my perceived identification. We'll just call it, right?
Yeah.
So
it is 2024, so maybe I guess you're right. Maybe someone might be thinking something. I guess.
Yeah. Even with a wife and kids, like I still can't convince some people that that's how I roll. So, so one thing I want to talk to you about, and hopefully, in case everybody's unaware here, I mean, Trench is active duty. So if there's anything you're uncomfortable with answering, or if you're not like really trying to get into that, like just feel free to let me know because I don't want to push you into any territory that creates an issue for you. One of the things that I think a lot of people are concerned about, especially with like the idea of trying to get America better prepared for what's coming or what could come or what could happen, right? And my personal hope is that we never actually need any of the stuff we're preparing for or like need to be prepared for the things we're concerned with. But it's still a possibility, which is why we try to have that insurance policy in place. But especially because this applies to the average person just as well as it does in the military, or at least in my opinion. You're dealing with a lot of new recruits, right? I'm sure you have a lot of people that come in. They're maybe not physically or mentally prepared to deal with what they're about to experience. And then you have to use your expertise to try to build them up into something that they currently aren't, right? And I think like even if you were to look on the Army's website right now about being a drill sergeant, it's like taking a civilian and turning them into a soldier, right? Like that's a big part of what you do. So with that in mind, when you're dealing with those people, trying to get them ready to, be combat ready, basically, what are some of the biggest challenges you have right now with like motivation? Because I think that your experience in that could probably be applied to, let's say I'm trying to get a group together of like-minded guys who want to be ready for who knows what, right? How do I get those people motivated based on some of your experience in that department?
So, first and foremost, obviously I could say a number of things, but the biggest thing that comes to mind is teamwork. And I know that sounds super cliche, but chat, everyone post out in the chat right now, how many guys in your community or near you, we'll say within an hour, we'll be very generous, within an hour of where you live, how many guys do you know that you could call up whenever SHTF happens and that they are competent and they are committed to the team? Like they are actually committed to your little community, your little rifleman platoon. Be honest. Post how many guys that you have, whether it's 1, 0, 25, whatever you got. And be honest. Be honest with how many people you legitimately have. Because the biggest issue that I see is, say, young Timmy, right? Young Joe, he's 18 years old, and he spent the majority of his life on the couch. And, they've been consuming video games. They're not in excellent shape. They're just not... they're not in that position yet. And the biggest thing is preaching to them and getting them committed to this mindset of teamwork, a member of a team, belonging to a team, actually like having real investment in the greater good. The team is the greater good. The team, like I'm in Dragon's platoon, right? I'm a drill sergeant leader in Dragon's platoon. So when we get our future drill sergeants, our drill sergeant candidates, they show up and they're going to be drill sergeants in 9 weeks, as long as they pass the academy. And the academy is like a version of basic training. So they go through basic training again, just as an NCO, right? But they're learning drill sergeant things, but performing training tasks again, but doing more and more and more that would be expected of them. And the biggest thing that we get is once we get them with this mentality of, okay, for you guys, it'll be your community. My community and my family is more important than just me. And the team is more important. Once you get that, you got them. And you take care of your people, you got them. Like, if it's not just about showing up to work, doing PT, going to the rifle range, and doing like the day-to-day tasks. It's getting their buy-in, getting people to fully invest in, hey, this team is more important, right? And obviously there's a lot of politics there. People will be like, oh, you're working for the feds, or you're working for this or that. You don't even see that. In the infantry, you don't see anything outside the infantry. I would say either the platoon or the company, right? So 200 guys or 50 guys. That is what you see. But once you get that buy-in, like I have a sky shark tattooed to my leg, because one of my platoons was the sky shark platoon. And me being that crazy young leader at the time, I think I'd only been in for 8 years at the time. I was trying to earn my soldiers' trust and confidence and their respect. So getting the platoon logo tattooed to my leg as a senior staff sergeant at the time, that was hey, this dude cares about us. He's committed to the team, even though he's a little freaking crazy, right?
Fully bought in.
Fully bought in. So the biggest thing is getting that commitment, right? Getting that commitment to the team. And once you have that, man, everything else will follow. Drill and ceremony, freaking hand grenade quals, rifle quals, tactics. Everything else was just building on that. You can build on physical fitness, right? And a version of a team is what we got going on right here, right now with my channel and your channel. You're having that commitment, that community, and being able to vocalize like, hey, Magic, I don't really agree with your thoughts on this, but I want to hear how you formulated that opinion, and let's work together to come to a better plan for our community and our team. Because I think so often right now, what people think, because it's so polarizing, whether it be with politics, upcoming election, you hear, hey, the sky is red. And then everyone's like, no, it's not. The sky's blue. And then they don't even want, okay, why do you think that? Okay, well, you objectively, I think you're wrong, but let's discuss how we can get better, right? So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. But for me, it's once I make it, hey, welcome to First Platoon, right? Welcome to First Platoon. It's a group of 50 people, 50 little trainees. This is our platoon. This is how we do things. This is the right answer. This is the wrong answer. And I'm not. Yes, I'm in charge of you, but I'm also here with you. I'm going to do everything I ask you or tell you to do. I'm going to perform it better than you before you do it. And once you have that mentality, dude, you're unstoppable. And if that's the mentality that we could have here as a community, like, hey, everything we do, let's do it together and like be the freaking the best at that task, whatever that task may be. If it's, hey, wake up in the middle of the night, throw your plate carrier on, throw your knots on, and get security on the house with you and your family, and be a member and committed to that goal, there you go. Now you're freaking cooking. So
yeah. Well, and I can see what you're kind of alluding to there with the leadership mentality versus like the boss mentality of, hey, I'm going to get down here and do this with you, not just tell you to do it. And I think that's huge, especially if you're trying to develop some sort of a local group, or you're trying to get guys in your community to come together. You have to show that you're willing to put in the effort as well. And I think that that's one of the harder parts sometimes for people because of how busy life is and everything else, right? I spent many years in management. That was mostly what I did throughout my career, was being a restaurant manager, in all honesty, like throughout different levels of that, of eventually making my way up to corporate. But regardless, the entire process always proved that if I was willing to do the tasks that I was expecting others to do, that made a huge difference in morale and delivery on being able to actually accomplish those goals. I would clean a floor drain before I would tell someone else they had to do it. It didn't matter how much I was getting paid or what my position was. Like, I'm willing to do this, right? So I think that's huge. And especially for people who struggle to get groups, you really need to kind of take control of it, right? We're all kind of expecting other people to come in and introduce themselves, right? And say, hey, my name's Bob and I'm here to train with you on the weekends, right? Like that, you can't wait for that. So you have to take the initiative and be that leader and say, hey, this Saturday, if the three of us can go out to the grasslands and do some drills or whatever, I think that'd be great. And one of the reasons why I kind of always default to the firearms aspect of that is because I'm sure you feel similarly, but getting out and training and doing that, it's got a level of fun, it's entertaining, and it is still beneficial.
Absolutely.
And it really like builds a lot of camaraderie that you don't get if you're like, hey, come over and help me, bucket up some rice and beans. Like there's not that same level of enchantment with that,
Right. And like you said, you cleaning a drain, right? Or for me would be like me physically going out and handing out ammo at a qual range or whatever, at a live fire range. As a senior non-commissioned officer, me handing out ammo, one of your subordinates is going to see that. And if you're respected and you're a well-respected leader, guess what they're going to do? They're going to jump in and do that task. And you're going to go be able to do the leadership and management things that you're supposed to be doing, right? But if you're not respected, then they won't. It's like the whole thing. If you see first sergeant, which is a senior NCO, right? Someone that's been in for 12, 15, 16 years. Let's say they're carrying a broom and they're going to go they're sweeping the floor. You don't think that all the soldiers are going to jump up when they see first sergeant, sweeping the floor and take it? They're going to do it right away out of respect, right? That's just how it works. And it's got to be the same thing. And I think to tie this in with the preparedness thing, and why I'm so harsh on people with my opinions on my channel sometimes is like, and I have this prop out here. And I think you saw it during our pre-discussion. I have this steel plate out here. And the reason I have this steel plate, okay, from AR 500, right? I have this out here because if I see somebody in my comment section say something like, I'm going to run steel plates, it's not a time to be, I guess, soft on them or like to use patience. That's the time to be like, okay, like, hey brother, if you value my opinion, objectively speaking, that's a bad choice, but here's why. But people don't want to be told they're wrong, unfortunately, or be told something that, hey, Trench is being a jerk and he's telling me I'm wrong. But what you don't see is all the experience behind that, all the life lessons. Like, obviously I own these plates, but these plates I bought 13 years ago or something, and I had to learn that maybe steel plates aren't the right answer. So I think being honest and upfront, having that open dialogue is more important than just getting stuck in your ways, right? For the things that we're talking about. So.
Well, and I mean, I started with steel plates because I didn't know any better, or I didn't know what the differences were. And of course, it's what I could afford at the time, right? So I felt I was in that camp of, well, I'd rather have some level of body armor and then deal with what I can build up towards in the future. And I think that's okay. But as long as you're willing to progress or to learn or to understand the compromises that you're making, rather than being emotionally invested to the point of refusing to change your mind, right? And I think that's really important because regardless of what you're doing with preparedness, or I'm sure, one of the common things I hear from the military community when it kind of bleeds over to the preparedness community is that idea of like all your planning goes out the window after the first shot is fired or something along those lines, right? Just in the sense of like you have to be willing to adapt, right? And if you're not willing to adapt, then you might put yourself in a bad situation you didn't have to be in, right? Or at least that's my thought process or understanding of it.
Yeah. Whenever bullets start flying, stress level gets high, and there's not time to sit here and be like, hey, Magic, I need you to take a knee and pull security, face out, pull security, and conduct this basic react to contact drill. We're getting shot at. No, you already know what to do. You already know how to react. You already know to get down behind cover, get online with your teammates, start suppressing the enemy, talk the guns, etc. Right? And that's why I think it's so important that we just be honest and upfront. Hey, dude, don't buy that sight mark, optic. Don't buy that budget optic. Just stop, save your money and buy something quality, because the thing you don't want to be on your mind when, SHTF or preparing or whatever you're, getting ready for, the thing you don't want to have on your mind is this thing going to hold zero? Is this thing going to survive this hand grenade that goes off in your face when you're, you can't see because you got sweat and blood pouring in your eyes and you need this thing to work right now? Is it going to work? Or is it going to fall apart and your last thoughts are going to be, I should have invested heavier? So,
well, and that's why, I think we're at a good point right now based on the market that there are good options that are much more affordable than their competitors. I know you rock like Hollow Suns and like the Romeo 5 and stuff, or I've seen them on some of your rifles, and those work very well for their price point. But that doesn't mean that equates to every other item at that exact same tier, right? So you have to be picky about what you're choosing, but you can still find affordability. You just have to know what actually, reaches that level of quality to where it's reasonable. And at least that's been my experience. And that's what I've been trying to help people with when they're newer to this entire concept, because it's a lot to navigate. And
right.
many, many times guys that I've talked to here in person that come out and shoot and stuff, I've helped them fix some of their equipment choices, or at least push them in the right direction based on the fact that, what they show up with is actually like not even physically working while we're just even shooting on the range, So,
well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Romeo 5, because I think that's a good example. The SIG Romeo 5. So when I use my SIG, so I have like 5 freaking SIG Romeo 5s. The reason why I have so many is I put them on guns to train with. Obviously, the two optics I recommend are either EOTech or Trijicon ACOG, right, with an RMR on top. Those are my game time optic. Like, you're not going to catch me if let's say the world ends tomorrow and the whole world is falling apart. You're not going to see me with a SIG Romeo 5 on my gun. That's a training optic for me. So I know it will survive being thrown in the back of the Mustang, pulled out, thrown in the safe, pulled out, kind of used roughly, but not used like really rough, right? I know the SIG Romeo 5 holds 0, and I know it works good enough for training. But I could not go into a real combat scenario with a Romeo 5, to be honest. So to me, I can use it as a good training dot, because I can put a bunch of them on a bunch of different builds. Let's say I have 10 different guns that are all set up, but I don't have 10 ACOGs, because that is a ton of money. That's like $10,000, right? So I can have 2 ACOGs on my main rifle that I think I'm going to use, and then I can have a bunch of Romeo 5s on everything else, and then when push comes to shove, I can put my EOTech or ACOG on the thing I'm actually using. So I think that is where a Romeo 5, just to use that as an example, it works, right? It's a good budget option that you could hand that rifle to somebody and know they'll be okay, but they're not in the best of hands, if that makes sense. And I think it's important to be honest with ourselves based on what we're buying, right? You brought up Holosun. Holosun makes really, really good stuff for the price of what you get. Like their 507 comp, that dot for handguns is a really good dot. Their EPS carry dot, that's a really good dot. But some of their 403, I think it's 403 rifle red dots are not good. They are not good. And the chat's going to freak out, and they're going to say, I have a Holosun 403. I mean, objectively speaking, just the build quality and the materials they're using and some of their dots are not good, right? But you have to understand, okay, if I put a bunch of 403s, Holosun 403s on everything as a training dot, but then when it's time for realsies, I put your real optic, your aim point on the one build you're going to use. That way you don't shoot out your barrel of your go-to-war gun. That makes sense, as long as you're using it as a consumable product. But I think what guys need to do is be honest, be super honest with yourself. Like, okay, what am I using this for? And is it going to work? And if the answer is maybe, not worth it. Not worth it at all, right?
Well, and that's why there's a lot of options out there, and at least one of my understandings, after talking to some other people with a lot more experience than myself, is that when some of these companies are developing things for especially like military operations, they're trying to make sure that the equipment lasts like one combat engagement, because that's a lot of times like as far as you can really be expected to go, because bad stuff happens when that's going on, right? But I also think that the average person assumes that we aren't necessarily going to be faced with that level of combat in the sense of being just like a civilian. However, I guess maybe we don't know that. So that kind of helps me move on to one of the next points I wanted to make. But really quick, I did do a poll to see how many people everyone had when it came to being within an hour of their group. And unfortunately, the highest number is 0 to 1, right? It's at 47%, 48%. 2 to 4 was the next at 34%. 5 to 8 was 10%, and 9 plus was 8%. And I understand why, and it is difficult to find people. And I just want to just kind of let everybody know, like I personally, like I'm in the 5 to 8 in all honesty. Like I'm not trying to lie and explain, like make it seem like just because I have this channel that like I've got this gigantic group of people who are ready to go at any point. Like no, within my immediate area right now, there's about 5 to 8 guys that I could call up that would be here and have levels of capability and are willing to train and willing to learn and have specific skills like first aid, or maybe they have skills when it comes to agriculture or whatever it might be. And that's just the truth, and like, sure, do I have some affiliations that exist that might be within that realm? Yes, but those aren't guys that I have on speed dial. Those aren't guys that I'm texting or communicating with on a regular basis. And it's because it's very difficult, and I've lived in this area where I live right now, I've been for about 3 years. So it's a long process, and it takes a lot of vetting. It takes a lot of time, but it is something worth investing in, And so I don't want people to get discouraged because they assume they should have 9 plus people, which would be great. But even someone like myself who does what I do, I don't have that yet. And so, I just want to be honest with everybody when it comes to that, because your expectations should be that it takes a long time and that it's difficult,
Right. So what do we do? So now that we know the information, if we're all being, honest with ourselves, let's say you have one buddy. So what do we do? Okay. Well, what I try to do, and I guess I'll shill for myself and my own community, we try to do the Discord thing. Now you still have to be careful because it's still online, but
still glows.
What's up?
Still glows sometimes,
Right. So you got to be careful, right? You got to watch out. There's people lurking that, not, whether it be the ATF or whoever, they're out there lurking and they're watching, right? But, what I try to do is, set up the Discord, and then what guys can do is they can get in there and find people in their area to train with, right? And it works out. It really does. And that's a good option. So Discord is an option, or something like Discord, right? Just be careful. I would caution everybody, be very careful of what you share on a public forum, right? So that's like the initial. Another thing you can do is go door to door, right? Throw your normal, respectable clothes on, go door to door. Hey, my name is Trench, or whatever your name is, obviously. And, I just want to introduce myself, maybe go 6 houses down each way in all directions, 6 houses down. Hey, my address is right here. I just want to introduce myself. And maybe you run into somebody, you're like, I think this dude might be similar to me. And, strike up a conversation and, maybe, have a get together if you meet a family or somebody that they seem normal enough, and that's how you start to develop that. Now here's the thing with meeting your neighbors. Obviously you got to be cautious. You don't want to be that weirdo, that weird guy, right? But let's say you meet Joe. Joe lives 2 houses down, and he's always thought about buying a gun. Maybe he bought a budget PSA and it's kind of trash. You are going to have to invest in Joe and make Joe a asset, not a liability. So now, you're going to be hopefully, sharing magic prepper videos of something. Hey, dude, maybe check out this channel, maybe check out this Trench guy, and he's got some tactics. Just let me know what you think, and ease them in. And that's kind of the hard part too, is like, let's say you have a buddy, but all they do is watch football, and that's all they do. They go to the gym, they watch football, and they've been thinking about buying a gun. Dude, you have like at least 9 weeks worth of constant training to get this person, to be an asset, not a liability. So is it an uphill battle? Yes. But if you're going to be in the area for at least another year, the area that you live, you need to start touching base before the election. You need to really start going door to door, introduce yourself. Hey, we're doing a chili cookout on this day. If you meet somebody that seems normal, or if you ever need anything, let me know. Or if because I'll just share my an experience that we had in my neighborhood, Nighthawk and I. There's a lot of break-ins, people breaking into vehicles, right? But what happened within a day, less than a day, everyone shared the ring footage. Everyone, hey, we're gonna turn lights on. We're gonna have these lights on Amazon that can light the freaking everyone's house, and then we can see if anyone breaks in. We can see easier, and here's our plan, and no one should be out, super late at night in anyone's yard. Period. Like that's common sense, right? But
Right.
then it's easy to identify. And I'm not saying run outside and blast somebody with buckshot, but it's easy to identify when something's going down when it's 2 a.m. and you got people, wearing masks, trying to open car doors. Like if they get blasted with buckshot, that's a them problem. But at least everyone in your neighborhood, hey, the norm. What is the norm for our community? Okay, the norm is if anyone's doing a cookout, it's going to be obvious. If someone's doing a barbecue party or something, and it's going to be obvious, right? If it's 4th of July or New Year's, we're going to drive really slow through the community, out of respect. But if it's late at night and this is our expectation as a team, as a community, that comes back to that team thing. Then hey, if you see somebody breaking in and you got your white light on your shotgun or your rifle and you turn that white light on and they're armed and they're breaking in, you do whatever you need to do within the limits of the law to protect you and your family. So just having that general mindset, that mentality of like, hey, this is the expectation across the board, and that's how you start to build community, and that's how you start to actually make yourself better. So yeah, that's just some thoughts that we've tried to do, right?
No, I think it's a very valid point. Obviously, a big recurring topic in the preparedness community is that people don't know their neighbors anymore. I've tried my best to integrate with my neighbors. Where I live, though, we're pretty spread out because I'm in more of a rural environment. But like just yesterday, my neighbor dropped off 2 giant bags of apples because they have a ton of apples right now. And they just said, hey, do you want some? And like, so just having that connection is really great in the sense of building trust, building the relationship.
It makes you feel better too.
Yeah, exactly. And then being part of the community is like, hey, my neighbor's bringing me food, like apples that they grew themselves just because they have so many. And they thought, hey, we should call, Matt up and see, do you want any apples? Right. So here I am and thinking to myself, man, I really ended up in a good place. But at the same time, if I haven't ever reached out or been introduced to any of these people, then none of that would be happening. Right. So I think that's really important. And, I do know that this is something that is on a lot of people's minds that I wanted to ask you about, and it might help. I don't know what it will help actually, so we'll have to see what you say. But obviously, people are concerned about the trajectory of America right now when it comes to not just our own politics, but the geopolitical situations going on. And we have war in Eastern Europe, we have war in the Middle East, we have all types of things kind of falling apart right now. And one of the big concerns I hear about is because, people care about this country, not just themselves in the sense of being prepared. They want to know that we're prepared as a country to be able to deal with some of these threats. And I just wanted to know, when it comes to like the media and some of the issues that they bring up about the military and all this stuff regarding like recruitment numbers and all these things that make people feel like maybe things aren't, where we would like them to be. Do you think that a lot of that is exaggerated? Do you feel like from inside that we're a lot more prepared than maybe the average American believes or is being told by the media at this point? Just because, the world is very chaotic right now. And I think a lot of people are kind of still hoping and relying on the fact that we have these good people in the services that are putting their lives on the line to make sure that we maintain, the country and our sovereignty. So I just didn't know if you could comment on that or give us some insight as to your feelings on that.
So I have to be very careful with how I answer this, but I'm going to be honest. And I should note, my opinions are my opinions on this channel. This is Trench speaking, not senior NCO, Sergeant First Class Trench speaking. Okay, so this is my personal opinion, but I can only tell you what I see. I've been in for 12 years. I've seen ebbs and flows in the Army. I've seen presidents come and go. That's all I'm going to really say on that. But what I can say is, do not believe do not believe the media when they tell you that we have a lethality problem. We do not have a lethality problem. The Army, the infantry in particular, right now, we are training hard. Okay. Obviously, I'm a little bit removed right now because I'm fulfilling my duties as a drill sergeant, right? So I'm still training the future of the Army right now with my battle buddies. But do not believe what you see when it comes to the Army having a lethality problem. The op tempo, we call it op tempo, operations tempo, is extremely high right now. Dudes are getting ready It's a peacetime. This is what I can say. It is a peacetime army that is getting ready for war, and we are ready. We are ready. And every month that goes by, every year that goes by, that we have longer to prepare, that we have longer to watch our enemies abroad fight in certain places on the world right now that they're actively fighting. We get to learn lessons, and we, as a peacetime army, we get to learn those lessons here, not in a trench somewhere. So what I would say to the average guy watching this right now is there's a lot of guys out there with bad tattoos, like my tribal tattoos, right? There's a lot of guys with really bad tattoos and receding hairlines, and all they do is they go to PT, lift weights, run, they go to the range, they have a debrief on what happened or what went wrong in training. They go on month-long rotations, 45 days, 3 months here, and all we do is walk around at night, fall in holes, and learn how not to fall in holes, learn how not to get spotted by drones, etc. So that way we can be lethal and ready to kill. To be honest, okay, to fight and win the nation's wars, right? That's as much as I can really comment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like this. If Magic Prepper, let's say you're filming content, you're editing content, uploading. So every day for your channel, you're in a knife fight, right? You're in a knife fight with keeping content rolling, keeping ideas flowing. Now imagine if you had somebody, and I don't know your situation, but imagine now you have an editor, you have a cameraman, and you have like a social media person. You have 3 different people. Now you're no longer in this knife fight every day. You're able to step back from the knife fight and learn how to get better at the day-to-day knife fight. Right now, the Marines and the Army, the infantry in particular, we're in a position where we can watch the knife fight happening and get really, really good at being better than people that are in the knife fight, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
No, and that's, obviously good to hear. And it's just something I wanted to get your opinion on just because of your obvious involvement. But it's something I also think is applicable to anyone who is trying to be prepared as well. When I look at things like what's happening in Eastern Europe and what's happening in the Middle East and some of the different, we'll just say aftermath of some of these events, there's a lot to be learned there, even from the standpoint of someone who wants to be ready, and that's how I try to evaluate a lot of those different happenings when it comes to the way the average, Ukrainian civilian is trying to get by while all their infrastructure is being destroyed, or how people, in Gaza who already had nothing are trying to survive with even less. Like, it doesn't matter if you want to look at it from some standpoint of bias. What you should be looking at is what can I learn from what those people are going through right now, and how can I apply it to my own personal strategy and planning based on what could happen here at some point. Not that it's likely per se, but just something that we can apply to our own preparedness efforts,
Right.
No.
I would just say a piece of advice for everybody, right? From my position, if you look at what's going on in Ukraine and in Israel, you see civilians going throughout their day-to-day life, still going to work, but they might have a rifle or they might have body armor. But what it comes down to is, like what we talked about in the very beginning, knowing where you stand, where you fall in the team. Okay, my team is the United States, and if it's whatever your team is, if your team is just your neighborhood and your family, my team is this. I'm going to be a good dude to everybody in my team. I'm going to smile. I'm going to be that very respectable, I'm going to be the best human I can be. I'm going to be awesome to people. I'm going to hold doors open, but, however, when the rules of engagement are presented and it's time to act, it's not time to do a Google search of, should I shoot this guy? It's no. I need to shoot this guy to defend my community or defend my family. That's what I think guys need to realize. It's not the time to get right, the time to get and I'll grab some kit right now. The time to get your gear ready is now. Is right now. Get everything ready. Make sure it fits. Make sure you have like a weapons rack or a gear rack where you can just grab your gear, throw that, know how to throw that gear on. Make sure everything is fit. Your water plan, everything is good for like the basic level of fighting gear, and be the best freaking human you can. watch Magic's videos on how to get, level 1 sustainment and food and water, and get level 5 sustainment, ammunition, and get your batteries and everything ready. Get enough, if you need booze, right? If you need to stock up on booze as something, if you're a drinker or whatever you need to do, right? But the basic levels of preparedness should happen right now, before this election, before anything gets worse. And then when it comes time to, hey, let's say the world's burning down, California is burning down, and now it's spreading throughout the country towards wherever you live, right? You're still going to be living your day-to-day life. And then when that day comes, when, hey, 48-hour notice, here they come, whatever is happening, whatever the threat is, they're coming. Now you're still a good human. You can still live with your actions, but you have prepared and trained, and you know that you can go to bed that night, whether it's in a trench or in a building or wherever you're living. That night you can live with your actions. So the time to get right and like, okay, where's my moral compass? Who am I as a person? The time to do that is now. Is now. And be honest with yourself. Whatever you go out and buy for preparedness, whether it be chow, you're eating Mountain House meals with a jet boil or whatever, you're wearing steel plates. The time to get right with that decision is now, because later in life, when you get smacked by that FPV drone because you were too heavy, because you carried too many steel plates on your body, that's not the time to get right, if that makes sense. So
Yeah. Okay. And that's good. And especially just kind of like some of that urgency of trying to make sure everything's organized and good to go. One thing that and obviously just so everybody knows in the chat, if there's anything that you're curious about or wanting to explore when it comes to having Trench here on the channel and being able to ask some questions, feel free to put that in the chat. Just make sure you put like a Q in front of it just so I see it. Or you can tag me, and that way we can take a look at it. And of course, I'll take a look and see, if it's relevant or if it's something that we can actually discuss. But I do have something else that I wanted to ask, because I know you get out on the range quite a bit. And then I believe you were on the pistol competition team as well at one point, right?
Right. So I'll just give a very brief synopsis. I got really, really lucky. I think I'm just going to give a rough time. It's either 2018 or 2019. I got really lucky to be invited to try out for a team to represent 425. Now, what is it? 211? 211 up in Alaska, the Airborne Infantry Unit in Alaska. So I got really lucky to be able to be a coach. A coach for a shooting team is like an alternate shooter. They're not an actual, they're a person that loads mags and whenever everyone else is getting ready, right? Well, after that, the next year I was on the team. So I was in a really lucky position to be able to win a lot of shooting competitions, both rifle and handgun and some shotgun. And, shoot USPSA. And I was just surrounded by really, 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 really good shooters, like really good freaking shooters, right? So because of that time in my life, I would say before that time, I was training on my own. And obviously I was going to courses that the Army provided, every year, and, doing training every year. But I was very amateur. Once I was surrounded by these top level shooters that, like, whenever I would bring a bad piece of kit or a bad weapon or whatever, or do a dumb modification to my rifle or handgun, they would be like, stop, don't. And they were very honest. That team that I was lucky enough to be able to train with, they were very honest of like, hey dude, that's stupid. But because we had this very alpha, very this is our team, and this environment of like, what's the word? I'm drawing a blank, but very competitive. A very competitive team, but everyone was trying to get better. I was able to grow, right? So that's kind of like my shooting competition background. But because of that time under tension in my life has helped develop me leaps and bounds farther than I would have ever been as a shooter, right? So that's why I'm so harsh sometimes with people, because I'm like, hey, I can save you time. Just do it. Just do this. Try it. If it works, it doesn't. Or you know what I mean? But yeah, that's kind of like my competitive shooting background. And I think I post some USPSA stuff here and there as well, and Army shooting stuff on the channel. But
So with all that additional shooting, especially in a competition setting, that's going to be a really high round count and a lot of different pieces of equipment, I'm sure, going through your hands. What pieces of equipment have failed you the most out in the field? Like, is there anything particular that sticks out as like these? You don't necessarily have to like not this brand or anything like that, but like what maybe parts or what things have you noticed tend to break the most frequently that people could be a little bit made more aware of, I guess,
Let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, so I have a PMag magazine here, and what you guys can't see is a ton of mags. Just that I use this area over here to load mags. But let's talk about magazines. Magazines are an expendable thing, right? They're an expendable thing, and they break. They're a consumable item, right? Magazines are a consumable item. Generally speaking, a magazine will last a long time, but excuse me, if you're in an Arctic environment, below freezing, right? Excuse me. And you're using a tan PMag is a good example. A tan PMag, for whatever reason, the feed lips break because the coating on them is different. So what we found out, just in Alaska, for example, a lot of us had tan PMags because they were the cool looking PMags, right? That's what guys get, or that's what they get issued, were tan PMags. But the arms room would issue out black PMags. We had no idea, right? We had no idea why the Alaska gets black PMags. They break. The tan PMags break because of the coating or whatever. The feed lips would shear right off. You insert the mag, it would freaking fall out. Literally, you pull. Why is it not fully seating? You pull that mag out, and that feed lip would just fall right off in your hand. So magazines have to be inspected, and they need to be the right ones. So make sure you guys are getting good magazines. Other things that fail. I mean, I see bad kit setup all the time. So kit setup, and maybe we can go down a tangent on that, but making sure you really do buy once, cry once, whatever brand it is. Make sure you vet whatever kit you buy and make sure it's really good. Optics. I've been hitting optics up a lot lately because guys will buy, and I'm gonna pick on the brand. Well, not really the brand, but just the model. A Strike Eagle 1-6, from Vortex, right? A Strike Eagle LPVO is like the worst is one of the worst optic choices because they are not durable. They do not hold zero. The glass quality is trash. And I know a lot of guys are going to get upset. I guess post in chat if you have a Strike Eagle 1-6. But I see guys show up for training and they just have bad optics. And I think guys should invest in a good freaking optic, right? A good optic. And yes, if the best optics, like I've had an ACOG break, right? I don't think I've ever seen an actual ACOG break other than my personal ACOG that I bought in my life. I've seen the mounts break, but that's just an example of if the best quality stuff can break, then the lower end stuff will break. Like it will 100% break. So yeah, I see all kinds of stuff fail all the time. I see people show up with bad slings that are not set up properly. Your sling should be set up for when you're wearing your body armor or your chest rig. That way you can use it in the kneeling unsupported firing position. What that means is your sling should be set up so that way when you take a knee, when you don't have cover and you're in the open, you have to take a knee to take a more precise shot. You can tighten your sling. That way it adds stability to the front of the weapon. That way it's a perfect shot in that scenario. So I see stuff all the time where dudes they're just buying stuff because, they're staying up too late. They're drinking too much, which whatever, I'm guilty of it, right? Staying up late, drinking, and you're on whatever website, and you just buy another gun or buy another thing that you don't really need, but that thing isn't good quality. So yeah.
So would you, just out of curiosity, especially because of a lot of the comments that I receive, and obviously there's some good, reasons behind it, but like, would you prefer iron sights over a bad optic?
Yes, 100%. Yes. I mean, there's all kinds of good iron sights. I think, was it Scalar Works or Daniel?
Yeah.
It's like all kinds of companies, even a carry handle. A freaking carry handle works better than a trash optic. So definitely. Now I would caveat that I would recommend you start with red dot first. I'm not, even though in the Army we do backup iron sights and then optics, right? That's kind of like our train up or how we echelon our training. But for you watching this video, no, go out and buy a freaking aim point and run that thing the rest of your life and you'll be good, right? You'll be happy that you did it. But yeah, if you are sitting at home right now and you're like, okay, I'm about to buy this really trash optic that's like $200, or I can buy this like really good optic for $550, dude, Just wait till you have the money for the 550 one. That's a good company, and run some good iron sights until you get that money.
Okay. And I mean, I think there's some reasonability there, just in the sense of we know irons aren't going to fail, and they generally still work pretty well. So I can see that logic there. I did get a question in. Let's see. And this is, like I said, everything's up to you and your comfort level of answering these questions. This is from Philip, who says, what kind of SHTF threat is most probable in your opinion? So, like, what is it that you think would be the most reasonable thing to be preparing for, like, as an American citizen?
Well, there's two, and they're kind of tied. Well, there's three. I'll tackle all three. The one that's got me concerned is the latest COVID, right? Whatever the next COVID is, that's not a big deal. I think that's going to be a serious problem because certain people can utilize the media to make things seem like a bigger threat than they are, and get everyone to do, like any sort of government lockdown control is a fear, right? But I don't know how, and I say that because I don't know how people will respond. I think the average American will say, we're not locking down, we're not doing that again. So I think that could cause serious issues. If you look at the United Kingdom right now, there's serious issues with rioting in the United Kingdom over something due to people using free speech, and they don't have free speech in the United Kingdom. So I just think anything in line with like a lockdown is a serious thing, and not because people will actually lock down. I think there's just going to be so much unrest, civil unrest due to that. Let's see. Another thing is China. China is a serious problem. I don't think they're an immediate threat today, but in 10 years from now, I don't know how we go another decade without being in a full-scale war with China. China is a serious problem. We really do need a leader, somebody to get us in a better position with China. They're a serious problem. If you don't see the writing on the wall, you need to pay more attention. And I forgot the last one, so maybe I'll remember in a second. Oh, the upcoming election. This election, regardless of who you're, I'm not going to vote or not going to say who I'm voting for, but you guys will have to use some deductive reasoning on that. But regardless of who wins, this country is going to be in a bad spot, I think. So that's got me really concerned, and that's why I keep bringing up the election, because it's got me. I don't see a off ramp, right? I don't see an off ramp in rhetoric, because the rhetoric just keeps getting ramped up. We got assassination attempts going on, and it's just, dude, people are they're ramped up right now. They're really fired up, and I don't know how we get out of this unscathed. So that's just my 2 cents. So I think the so what do we do? Well, we got 613 people watching this. By the way, if you're watching this, hit the like button. Magic Prepper will appreciate it, right? And go over to my channel and sub it as well. Boom. Okay. But if you're watching this video right now, start being kinder to your brother. And I know that sounds like super, super woke, but you got to be nicer to your brother. Give people a chance. Like, make eye contact when you're going to Costco or wherever you're freaking shopping at, right? I don't know, wherever people shop. Make eye contact, say hi. I mean, just be nicer. Give people the opportunity. If you disagree with them, try to have that conversation, because you might change their mind, or they might change your mind, right? You might change your opinion on something. I think we got to get back to the basics of just being good people. Like,
yeah.
What the guys don't see that are watching, you and I talked for 30 minutes, and I guarantee you, everything we talked about before this show, that was just basic two dudes having a conversation. That's all we're doing right now. It's just two dudes having a conversation. But being able to have that discourse with your brother, with your brothers and sisters in this country, dude, if someone likes a whatever product, you don't have to hate them just because they like it. Have that discussion. They will learn the error of their ways eventually, right? Say Kamala Harris wins and we have a full communist country, right? Everything is communism, and it goes towards this socialist scenario here in the United States. People will learn the error of their ways when they can't get gas. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I'm going off on a tangent, but
it's kind of what you do,
yeah.
So, and I also did have a another question earlier from Mike Linus, and they were looking for affordable chest rig recommendations. And just off the top of my head, I know there's a lot of mill surplus out there that can actually do a decent job of at least getting people started. What's your recommendation? What do you like?
All right, like I said, I have a bunch of like props because I figured some gear stuff. So before the whole Russia thing got started, this is a Smirsh rig, right? I can only hold this thing up for so long.
Smirsh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, I'll change the screen a little bit so you have a little more room. There you go.
All right, I'm going to be a little delayed, so I won't be able to see the. But here, hopefully they can see it. But here's a Smirsh rig, and this is a good example. Something like this, Alice gear is going to be super cheap and super affordable. This has 24 hours. You could make it last for 48 hours, but really a 24-hour sustainment kind of scenario going on, and a little bit of meds and stuff going on here. But something like a Smirsh rig, you should be able to get some Alice gear or something like that for pretty cheap, and that's going to be like a belt kit, right? That's going to be your not the most preferred, but you should be able to get something out there that's pretty cheap like that. But again, the whole buy once, try once thing. Let's see if I can find one. Here's another example. So here's just one example that I use this thing for, oh man, maybe 6 years at least, probably longer. I always underplay it, but a Haley Strategic DC3RX or something like this, a Haley rig will do a good general purpose option for something that you need, right? But now you're getting in the $200 or so mark. But honestly, I run the the quad rig from T-Rex Arms. I got a bunch of them laying around here. But I run the freaking T-Rex Arms quad rig. I think it's called quad rig. Someone will correct me in the chat. But this is what I live in this thing, right? Because I do. I'm in the field or in a field environment at least 3 to 4 days. I would say a minimum of 3 days, but 3 to 4 days a week. So I live in my gear. And throughout that time, what I've learned is the quad rig, because it's set up in a way where you can wear a assault pack or a backpack and assault pack, is super comfortable because, just the way that it's designed. So what I would caution whoever asked that question, be very careful of going for the cheap option when it comes to gear, because you're going to pay the price. If you're doing a ruck march or anything with that cheap gear, you're going to pay the freaking price. So be very careful if you're going for the cheap option, right? So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I threw up an image of the Smirsh gear just so everybody could see it, just because it is the more affordable option of the things you just discussed. And I think that's cool, especially because at least from my understanding is that mill serp is really where it's at when it comes to saving money, but still getting quality. And that's what that Smirsh gear basically is, right? It's basically like Russian mill serp, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's, I know a lot of people have been talking about the TAPS rig lately as well, as being like
I hate the TAPS.
You hate it? Okay.
The TAPS is not good, guys. It's not good. It's Army. It's standard issue Army. The TAP system is not good. Okay. You can do a lot better. And I'm gonna hate on T-Rex Arms a little bit, even though I love their stuff. The trap rig is just a TAP system that they modified. That thing is not good, right? And it's not an attack on them. That just the design of a TAP system is not good, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
My 2 cents. And I have worn a TAPS for like 2 or 3 years when I was a little Joey, right? When I came in the Army, it was the flick. All right, it was like the UCP or ACU pattern flick, and then after that was the TAP system. And the reason why guys wore the TAP system because you can click it into your body armor and unclick it, right? So when you get to like a mortar firing point or you're gonna eat chow, you can unclip your magazines from your body, your fighting load carrier from your body, and still wear your body armor. That's what it's designed for, and it can be a standalone rig. But the TAP system, I do not like the TAP system. I do not recommend it.
Fair. I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it,
Yeah.
And I don't have enough experience with that stuff to tell anybody what is or isn't good. But just in case anybody's curious, this is the TAPS rig right here. So that's what he's referring to. It's something that you can see being sold through a bunch of different mail serp sources and stuff like that. Affordable, but according to Trench, he doesn't like it, and he's definitely going to have a lot more experience with it than I would. So,
I mean, you should be able to get a tap system, dude. If you really look out there, you should be able to get a freaking tap system for like $30. Like, there's tons of guys that are probably getting rid of their tap system that they didn't need to turn in. So if you do some digging, you should be able to find a tap system out there. But I personally hate them. Just my 2 cents.
fair enough. Let's see here. I know there's a few more questions that I've been trying to get back in here. Jay Barilla says, as a 16-year fully disabled combat vet, 18B, who lives currently in the New England area, I believe, or the Northeast, the largest problem I find in training youth today is laziness, know-it-alls, and lack of teamwork and lone wolf mentality. And I think that's probably experienced by a lot of us out there. It's hard to motivate anybody to do anything above the bare minimum, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we already kind of hit on it pretty heavy, but a lot of guys in here, they don't have any, not to pick on them, but they don't have any buddies nearby that they can rely on. That's a problem. If you're a lone wolf, you're going to die. Because what's going to happen in any sort of grid down SHTF scenario, there's going to be gangs that are rolling around, right? And those gangs are going to have SKSs and Mosins or cheap ARs, right? But the benefit that they're going to have, as I freaking die over here, the benefit that they're going to have is going to be they got 20 freaking dudes with rifles and guns. So, yeah, the lone wolf mentality, I don't care how good your knight's armament is. Like, you better get some freaking buddies. Seriously.
No, it's power in numbers.
Yeah, you need dude, you need at least 9 to be good, okay? Like, you need a squad worth of people. Because here's the thing that people don't think about. You have to sleep at some point. And when you're asleep, the enemy is still moving, especially if they got a group of 20. So they're going to have roving parties and they're going to freaking slit your throat, dude. They're going to burn your house down. So you have to have a community. You have to have a squad or you're dead, dude. Seriously.
Well, and that's, I think, something that people need to work on. And it's like I said, not easy, but it is something that's important. Let's see, I had a question here that might be just kind of like a dig of sorts, but I thought you'd find it interesting. Somebody asked, what's the deal with hands and pockets for the drills? So I assume they're talking about some of your videos where you're doing drills and you got your hands in the pockets. I don't know.
I think he's talking about drill sergeants. You can't. I know the Army puts pockets on your uniform, but you can't use them. Okay, even if your hands are cold. But no, the hands and pocket thing kind of goes out the window once you get out in an austere environment, in a tactical environment. But for garrison, he's saying you can't have your freaking hands in your pockets in a garrison environment. That's what he's talking about.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I didn't know what that was related to. I thought maybe it was some of your shooting drills where you're just rocking hands in the pockets somehow, you know?
Yeah. No, he's making fun of drill sergeants because you can't walk and talk on the phone. You can't eat and walk. You have to have headgear on outside. Just a bunch of army stuff.
See, and that just shows how little of a background knowledge I have on any of that. So there we go. Let's see here. So, and Eagle Claw says that equals Air Force gloves. Now, hands in pockets anyway.
Yeah.
Now, I do know one thing that I was hoping to kind of touch base on here, and we're already kind of past the hour mark, so I know we're not trying to get too crazy today, but so since you have this military background, and one thing I hear a lot about discussed in the preparedness community as a whole is this mentality of not being mentally prepared for things to get really bad, right? People who have a comfortable life, who have, Uber Eats and they have Netflix and they're just hanging out in their house that's air conditioned, just aren't properly prepared mentally for dealing with the situations that come up during a bad scenario. I don't know if we're not necessarily talking combat, but just an overall emergency crisis, right? So at least in your experience, what is it you think people are lacking the most in regarding their expectations of that? Like because it's hard to mentally prepare yourself if you don't know what to expect. So what would you say, I guess, would be a reasonable thing to expect in regards to that and how to kind of like mentally harden yourself for it?
Right. And I'm glad you asked this question. By the way, we can go as long as the audience wants to hang and as long as you want to hang. Like it's a Saturday night and I'm off work, right? So that's a good question, because this is, and everyone watching this, they're having a good time, hopefully, because we have information. They're receiving information and they feel like they're engaging with each other, right? What's going to
Yeah.
happen? What's going to happen is, in a realistic scenario, unless you are like at the place where the rubber meets the road, like let's say the riot is at your front door, literally the rioting is at your front door, and you just happen to be unlucky, or the wildfire or whatever. I guess it wouldn't be a wildfire, but whatever thing is causing this country to collapse, or unless it's literally in your face, like physically in your face, what's going to happen is you're going to lose power, and then you're not going to have internet access, or you're not going to have cell phone access, right? In some
Right.
form or fashion, you're just not going to have access to the world. You're going to be back to the Stone Age. You're going to still have your house, but your house is either going to be really cold or really hot, right? So that's going to be, and then people are going to run out of food, and they're going to be desperate. They're going to be desperate for information. People are going to be so desperate for information. They're going to be going to their neighbors that they don't know, right? They're going to be going to their neighbors that they don't know, and they're going to be asking, "Oh, what's going on? Why don't we have power? Why are there no emergency services happening?" 2 days. 2 days after that, the whole country's ruined, because people don't have food and preparedness. They don't have these things that we're talking about. They don't have a sustainment plan in their house. So 2 days. After 2 days, you're going to see people going door to door asking for food. Hey, my family can't eat. My baby can't eat. We don't have medicine. We have a diabetic family member. They don't have insulin. We don't have whatever we need, to stay alive. That's going to last about a day. And after that, things are going to get wild. People are going to start coming for what's yours. And that's when, in this scenario, when you don't have that group of people, we'll say you don't have that group of 4 to 9 guys, or teammates, that's when things are going to get like real. That's when you're going to have to start making some decisions. We'll just put it like that. And that's when it comes down to having a community, having these conversations ahead of time. Hey, if we all lose power and the world, everything goes crazy, put your politics aside. You and your neighborhood, whoever lives near you, those individuals, those families, or those whoever it is, you need to have a plan. You need to have a general understanding. Hey, and this on this block, or this, on this street, we're going to block off the entrance. We're going to block off things as much as possible. We're going to have a entry control point. We're going to park our cars in a way where no one can enter the neighborhood. We're going to set up a wall as much as we can. Someone's going to guard it day and night. We'll be a roving guard where whoever, has night vision, they'll be on the night shift. Whoever doesn't will be on the day shift. And you need to have these things planned out now. Because if you don't have them planned out now, what's going to happen is that group that is hungry, that group that is cold, that group that doesn't have medicine, that group that doesn't have tobacco or booze, whatever their thing is that they need, they're going to come for it. And you and your loved ones are going to have to make decisions to defend yourself. That is going to be, it's going to be serious. So now the time to get right is now, because if tomorrow the power turns off, or right now as we're talking, the power turns off, you're going to be so desperate. You're going to be so desperate for the internet to turn on, so you get a little bit of news of what's going on in the country, or a little bit of news of what's going on in the world. What are we being attacked? What's going on? And that eagerness to find out what's going on is going to cost you your life, because you're going to go to Walmart, and guess what? Guess who else is going to be at Walmart? The whole freaking city is going to be at Walmart, and there's
Everybody.
going to be a gunfight. Yep, there's going to be a gunfight. So,
and I don't know if this is public knowledge or not, so whatever works for you here, but regarding the actual, the mentality of getting through that type of a situation in the military, especially as an instructor, how do you guys work on mentally preparing new recruits for what they might deal with during combat? Is that something that's built into the training, or is it just kind of part of it that's there, but it's not necessarily focused on as being the main ingredient? How does that work, I guess?
Putting them in high stress scenarios in an austere environment, whether that be simple things like an obstacle course. You go to an obstacle course where it's high, really high obstacles that test their fears and make them overcome their fears over and over and over again, and make them do it in front of their peers, make them do it do it in front of them and put them in scenarios like that, in live fire exercises and survival scenarios where they have to go out and survive, in the woods or whatever terrain with minimal equipment, do ruck marches with minimal water, forced hydration march where they don't have the water that they would normally have. Having these high stress training things to prepare their mind, because we see a lot is, oh, is this a drill? Is this serious? Is this the real deal, or is this just a training exercise? What's going to happen to the average dude watching this, is when they've never rehearsed, they've never been tried to utilize their gear and actually gone out and tried to and put themselves in high stress situations. The first time that they see a heavy bleed on somebody hemorrhaging, their legs blown off and they're hemorrhaging, they're just going to get pale in the face and pass out. Like, I'm not saying.
I mean, I might, in all honesty, not gonna lie to myself.
Like, a good example I always use is when I was a Bradley commander, we were doing a routine training exercise, which is called gunnery. Gunnery is just a series of ranges, tables, right? Progressively harder and harder. And during the course of this, a soldier was working on his Bradley or doing something in his Bradley, and the hatch to his turret was open, but it did not have the safety pin in. So when the vehicle started to move, the hatch fell and it crushed his wrist, right? And what I saw was a bunch of leaders panic. They got really blue in the face, pale face, and they panicked. Everyone's running around like crazy because they'd never seen any sort of real world casualty before, a lot of them, and everyone just panicked, right? So you know how you get around that? Two things. You rehearse. Okay, Okay, if we have a casualty right now, what are we going to do? Go. And you rehearse the plan, and then you have to do high stress training. High stress, get you uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Because once you get comfortable being uncomfortable, now, hey, is this just a training exercise or is this real? Because you're so used to the stress inoculation. You have to have stress inoculation. If you don't practice being stressed and being, I guess, just in a bad scenario, then when the scenario happens, you're screwed.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why a lot of companies are starting to offer these higher stress training seminars. I know I work with Refuge Medical, and they do their night responder classes and things like that, where they spray you with a hose and make you roll around the mud and then make you apply first aid to somebody. It's just to increase that stress level in order to be able to respond more appropriately if it actually happens. And so I definitely can see where that comes from. I do know somebody brought in, I think it was Uriel Martinez. Hopefully I'm saying that name correctly. But I can't find the question exactly right now. But I remember that it was something along the lines of, how would someone easily identify or make some sort of level of threat assessment? During an emergency, a lot of the things that people talk about is, it's not going to be as easy as saying, oh, the guy's wearing, the blue helmet, right? Or the guy's wearing the armband. How would someone assess whether or not something coming towards them is a threat? Or is there something that you might need to do in the sense of like a full long form video in order to cover that? Like, I'm not sure if that's something we could even discuss at this point,
Right. And that's a good idea. It comes down to two things: their intent and their capability. And let's break that down. So their intentions, what are they obviously portraying as their intention, right? And obviously you can hide your intention and you can clack off a suicide vest if you hide your intention well enough, right? Or, you can conduct a mass shooting if you're a dirtbag, if you hide your intention well enough. And then your capability. Capability comes down to what are they wearing and what are they armed with, right? If you're armed with a knife, but you're 100 meters away from me and you're sprinting at me with a knife, and I have my Daniel Defense Mark 18 with my ACOG, this is a freaking chip shot, right? There's not a lot of de-escalation to happen there. You're running at me. You made the poor decision. I see your intention is to stab me because you're sprinting at me. You're not trying to help me make a PB&J sandwich with this knife, right? You're sprinting at me, and you mean to do me harm. You have a knife. Okay, I don't need to kill him yet, but I do need to be ready. He's still running at me. Maybe at 50 meters, clack him, right? So Yeah, it comes down to intent. What is their intent and what is their capability? If people are coming into your neighborhood and they're not armed, right? Or people are around you, they're not armed, but they're causing they're speaking threateningly in some form or fashion where they're threatening you or threatening those around you. Okay, this individual or this group, their intention is to harm me or to do something to me. Okay. Now, just because they have that intention, do they have the capability? Well, I have my Glock 19 that they don't know about in either appendix or 4 o'clock carry. Okay. Do they pose a threat? Yes. But do they have the capability? Now, if there's 3 or 4 or 5 of them and I'm by myself, yes, 3, 4, or 5 people have the capability to hurt me or kill me. Now I have to act. You see what I'm getting at? So it comes down to their intentions and their capability. If you can say, okay, this group of people has the intent to hurt me. Okay, as a group and I'm by myself, they have the capability. Now I need to do something. Either remove myself from the scenario or draw my handgun, right? Present my handgun to make sure they understand that if they do anything else, it's over, right? So that's how you have to either escalate or de-escalate in your mind. If dudes with blue helmets are coming into your neighborhood and they're armed, okay, what is their intention? If you hear 5 doors down, them ripping people out of their house and handcuffing them or putting them zip tying them, putting them in the back of a truck, okay, they have the capability to harm me. They have the intention to imprison me. I need to now initiate this ambush on them, right? So those are things, and hopefully you're not initiating that ambush by yourself, or you're gonna die. But you see, what I'm getting at is comes down to the intention and the capability. So,
which sounds like it's really important to have the ability, the skills, and the equipment required to do decent surveillance and some level of reconnaissance in the sense of being able to see past your front door, right? So like you said, being aware of the fact that something's happening 6 doors down, or being able to use a rangefinder or binoculars or something, like anything with magnification that can provide you with some of those details from further away, aka are they armed? And okay, so now I know their capability, but I don't know their intent yet, but that still gives me that data to work with to try to compile that decision, basically, right?
Yeah, 100%, dude. And things, I don't know if you've ever seen that. Have you ever seen a car accident and everyone's just so shocked at the car accident? They can't believe it's real. You know what I mean? They can't believe oh my God, this is horrible. I saw this accident. It's horrible. You know who doesn't react like that? State troopers, soldiers, EMS, right? People that have seen just horrible things happen in front of their face all the time. And the level of disbelief isn't in their brain. It's like, holy cow. It's more like, of course that accident just happened, because people get in accidents all the time. I've seen people hurt all the time. Now, what do I need to do? You know what I mean? What is my role?
Yeah.
So people just need to. It's hard to say that, because today I was at Sam's Club, right? And I hate going to stores like that. I hate it because it's just you don't have you have to be head on a swivel. You don't need to be like in condition red, but you need to be in like amber. You need to be head on a swivel, kind of looking around, looking at people's hands, looking at people's their intentions and their capabilities. There's a lot going on in a place like a Sam's Club or something like that, or any scenario like that. So you can't just be, I don't have my phone. You can't just be down here like looking at your phone. So it's just the level of disbelief if you see something happening, you have to act. Because the obvious human reaction. Say you see somebody running with an AR and they start clacking people, right? Your first reaction is going to be like, this isn't real. That's most people's first reaction. This isn't real. Your first reaction should be, not only is this real, I need to move and draw and fire. You know what I mean? Move, draw, fire. And, get your spouse on the ground, get them behind cover, and hopefully your spouse has the same handgun that you have and is drawing their handgun, and also moving to cover to begin engaging that threat, with their Glock 19 or whatever they got going on. It should just be something you have to rehearse, right? The level of disbelief is hard for people to overcome, right? Even now, as I say this, I'm trying to imagine myself, at the store, someone comes in, your first reaction is going to be like, come on, this isn't happening. It's happening. So,
yeah. And I think that's that desensitization of people who have been involved with those types of things, like you said, car accidents, and the EMTs who show up on the scene are going to be very used to seeing these gruesome injuries. So now they're desensitized and they can just move forward with their job or their task. The average person who doesn't involve themselves with any of those activities is going to lose their mind the second they see a gruesome injury, or they see, like you said, an active shooter type scenario or something along those lines, just because of the disbelief. And that's something I think a lot of people are going to struggle with if we find ourselves in a crisis. People who have lived the refugee lifestyle, the people who have lived in war zones and have been moved to somewhere else afterward, they have the concept of living under the constant threat of bombs being dropped or buildings exploding or whatever it might be. Most of us here in the United States could never fathom what that would be like. And those people are going to have a much better, I guess, idea of how to move forward and move through some type of scenario like that because of that previous experience. But a lot of us here in this country are going to literally just go lock our front door and then hope it goes away, you know?
Right.
So I know it's been kind of going on and on here. We're at an hour and 26 minutes right now. So honestly, I would like to see if there's anything you kind of want to close out with, or any advice you have for anybody in the chat, or anything else you'd like to throw out there, just because, you know, I like having someone with your background and expertise on, just to kind of pick your brain about things that I have no experience with. And maybe you can leave us with some gems before we call it a chat.
I mean, I don't know of any gems. I would just say the biggest thing that I'm working on as a person, and of course, guys, of course, if you want to come over to the channel and subscribe, or if you're from my audience, make sure you subscribe to Magic. That way you can support him. But the biggest advice I would leave you guys with is be a good person. Like, the way I view this whole preparedness thing and training and being a better marksman, being a better, tactician, being a better leader, making sure my gears, all that preparedness stuff, I know it's going to happen because I'm taking steps, very consciously to continue to prepare. Should we get another case of water, just in case? Should we get a few more cans of food, a bag of rice here? Or should we get another case of ammo, a couple thousand rounds here and there, because I shoot a lot? Should we, making these steps are going to happen. But what can happen very easily is you get so overwhelmed and so, target focused on the end of the world is you don't live your life. And I think it's important that we live our life. We do the little things. Like, I'm telling you right now, after this, I'm going to enjoy some time with Nighthawk, right? If you guys don't know who Nighthawk is, go sub to the channel and you'll see my girlfriend Nighthawk, spend some time, play some video games, doing the basic things in life that make me happy and make my family happy and make my community happy, and actually remembering to live. Because if you're always preparing for the end of the world, you're not living your life. You're just, you're preparing for this, horrible scenario. You still have to live. You still have to, you still have to get in good shape at the gym and do all the little things. And just remember to be a good human. Still be prepared, still doing the things that you're going to do. If you're watching this, we know you're going to make the right decisions and you're going to continue preparing, but remember to take that minute. Okay. Have that conversation with that person, listen to that person talk, hear those person's opinions. Because if you just are in such a hurry to get to the finish line, I got to stock up 10,000 more rounds because the end of the world is coming. Okay, that's fine. Still do the preparedness stuff, but don't get so target focused that you forget to live your life.
Yeah. No, I think it's great advice. And I think it's something that, I have to remind myself of sometimes, and I'm sure everybody else does too. We feel that urgency, but what is it you're missing out on while you're preparing or while you're investing in preparedness that maybe would have been more beneficial for those who are around you, right? And that's making sure your family's taken care of, making sure your family's happy is part of being prepared. They deserve to have a good quality of life in the process,
Yeah,
so
man, just be a good dude, right? Just be a good human and listen more than you speak is a huge thing, right? Enjoy the little things. Enjoy the little, the engagement. Sometimes the engagement just that I have with my audience, and that, whether my people know it or not, that go to my channel, and hopefully everyone watching this goes to my channel too and engages. But the comments, the positive comments, right? Hey, I tried this optic, it didn't work or did work. Here's my experience. Just hearing people's thoughts rather than you're this horrible person, or people attacking each other in the comments, which you're never gonna fully cure, because of course, it's a little bit anonymous, right? Anyone can post any comment and that's whatever. But if you have positive engagement, even if you don't agree with the person that you're engaging with, hey, having that positive discourse is what will ultimately decide if our country and our community succeeds. If we can't communicate, then we can't be successful, right? If we can't be good to each other, then we can't be successful. And that's like the biggest thing that I'm working on is just, and also finding out who to invest time in, if that makes sense. Like there's going to be people that they're just not worth your time. You try to be a good person and they're just, they're disrespectful. I mean, you name it, right? That you don't see eye to eye. They're just blatantly, they're on a path to destruction. You can't get through to them.
They're a liability.
Right. They're a liability. There's going to be times in your life where you just cut people off, period. Right. Yeah. They're not moving forward as a person. They're a detriment. They're a liability. If it's for a preparedness plan, if you're trying to prepare for the end of the world and they're like legitimately, like they're buying the worst gear, they're not trained, they're not physically fit. They don't have a good, healthy relationship with their spouse, with their, if they have kids, if they're not just a good person, there are going to be times that you're going to have to just cut that person off, period. Like, hey, dude, I'm not playing ball with you anymore. Peace in the Middle East, goodbye. And that's healthy. That's important because that person will grow from it. Obviously, right now, if Magic was like, hey, Trench, I don't like you, goodbye, I would be like, oh, well, Magic is a jerk anyway, right? That would be my first reaction. But over time, I'm going to have some reflection and be like, Magic doesn't like me because I'm X, Y, and Z, right? And then I will grow as a person and hopefully, be better off for it. I hope that's coming through the way I want it to.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, I think with everybody, especially who's here tonight and whoever's coming in on replay crew, because they're awesome, they're always checking in, which I appreciate. Hopefully this chat gave you some things to consider. And I wanted to ask some of these questions to somebody who actually has that experience and that background to get that point of view, because it's like, the minority of the country has served. So most of us have not. And so we don't have any of that training or any of that mindset that gets instilled in you while you're in the service. And it just helps us kind of clarify some of our thoughts, So I appreciate you coming on. I really do, man. And hopefully we can do this again sometime. But if there's anything else, anything that we missed in the sense of questions you guys would have had or something like that, leave them in the comments below on the replay. And that way I can go back in. And if we do this again here in the future, I can check some of those questions and try to bring them up at a later date. But yeah, I mean, if that's good with you, man, I think we're going to end it here. If you guys make sure you go to Trench Grenades channel, check it out. Like I said, hot takes and strong opinions on certain firearms and equipment. You're going to get upset sometimes because even I have at times, but it is part of the deal. I appreciate when somebody just wants to throw it out there and let you know what they think. And that's what you do, Trench. So thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun, man. I look forward to doing it again. And, I guess I'll see everybody down in the comment section for all the discourse that happens over there, or to anybody that comes over to my channel. Make sure you guys like this video if you enjoyed it. It helps. It also helps if you like the replay. I guess that's what we're calling it, the actual video, not the live. But if you actually go over and comment on Magic's video when he posts this, it should be right after. That'll help his channel as well. But yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Much appreciated. The usual live stream will be Monday night, and I look forward to seeing you then.
Cheers.